That, my friends, was a common Bengals W. What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp here for Common Bengals W. It is November 6th, 2023, and man, it feels really good to be able to say that these are common Bengals W's at this point. It's something that we start this season and it's 0-2. And things look really, really bad, right? And then we know there's that possibility. We know there's the hope that the Cincinnati Bengals can turn it around like they have the last couple of seasons. However, they're doing it. They're out there doing it. They're out there getting it done. They're putting all the pieces together that they need to put together right now. Now, that doesn't mean they're without fault or anything like that. But right now, things have been looking so much better. Things have been looking so much smoother with the Cincinnati Bengals. Oh my gosh, they're 5-3. I'm very happy about this. I was in the stadium last night for Sunday Night Football. A little chilly. As a season ticket holder, I'm starting to realize how I need to dress for some of these shows, some of these games, rather, also some of these shows. But I'll be back in the stadium this Sunday. CJ Stroud, oh boy, that's going to be something, right? But let's talk about Bengals-Bills, Sunday Night Football. The Bengals, I think they were 0-9, I read, on Sunday Night Football. Obviously, a lot of those are Dalton era because Joe Burrow has been killing it in prime time. The Cincinnati Bengals win a game that should not have been as close as what it was. The Cincinnati Bengals should have probably scored at least 30 points, at minimum 30 points. And we'll talk about that first. Let's get the negative out of the way. There were two drives that should have resulted in points for the Cincinnati Bengals. There was a very puzzling 4th and 5, and I admire going for it sometimes. But this is one of those rare situations where going for it on 4th and 5 in field goal range, fringe field goal range, maybe less aggressive than taking the 3 points even. Then there was another situation in which Evan McPherson actually made a kick, but there was a holding call on that kick, and they got pushed out of field goal range. Brad Robbins had to punt. Now, I also want to say this. Brad Robbins hit one of his best punts of the year. We've been incredibly hard on him this year, but you know what? When he performs, and he performed well. Fortunately, the Bengals didn't have to do like a ton of punting, relatively speaking, and Brad Robbins wasn't needed nearly as much as one might think. He still had, let's see, how many punts? 3 punts. I mean, the Bills only had 3 punts as well, but he had one of his better punts, but then again, his average is like 39 for the game. He's not good. He's not good. On the night that I think that Kevin Huber might have been ruler of the jungle, I'm like, I don't know that he would be much worse right now than what we see out of Brad Robbins, and hopefully that is rectified. Joe Burrow is rectified. 348 yards. Another game well over 70%. Somebody says, or Jeff Hawkins. Jeff Hawkins ready to freeze his ass off with me. Says it was a false start, not a hold. We don't do research here. No research allowed, Jeff. Sorry. Save that for my day job. And even then, well, I don't know about that. Joe Burrow, 31 of 44 for 348 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Just incredibly outplayed Josh Allen. Now, around the start of the year, I don't want to say I was a bit of a conspiracy theorist, but you know what? I have side-eyed Josh Allen a little bit. Going to give you some numbers of Josh Allen over his last 14 games. This includes the postseason, and it doesn't include the Damar Hamlin game. Dating back to the Miami game, 14 games, 18 interceptions, 9 fumbles, 26 sacks. The sack number, not bad, especially for as much as he gets mobile and all that. But 18 interceptions, 9 fumbles. If you're averaging at least 2 interceptions or fumbles a game, you are giving the other team a really significant chance to win. He is able to get away with a lot of things, and he was last night too. He was able to get away with some things that he shouldn't be able to get away with. And I'm not talking like from a penalizing standpoint or anything, which, I didn't mind that intentional grounding call at all. It was not catchable. It was nowhere near. Didn't mind it a one single bit. However, what I would notice, and it's something that I was saying up in section 249. So I know the Cincinnati Bengals have drilled this before. Stop biting on Josh Allen's pump fakes. Here is the reality of that situation. One, Josh Allen isn't going to throw the ball. He's probably not going to throw the ball. Two, if he does throw the ball, there's a real good chance it's getting picked. He does that quite a bit. We'll talk more about that later. But don't get airborne. Don't bite on it and get airborne. It's something I heard Dave Lapham say last night as well. Don't get airborne on that, because that's what Nick Scott did, and Josh Allen ran right around him. Now, also, another outcome of Josh Allen pump faking is he's probably nowhere near an area in which he can actually pass. Look at this. He was 3 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, and he was still pump faking. So what this shows me is that, one, he either does not have a clue of where he is on the field relative to things, or most of the time when he pump fakes, he's got no real intention of passing ever. This is boy who cried wolf. Look at this. Look how far he was. Jesus Christ. So stop biting on that. And they did towards the end of the game. I want to talk about the striping of the jungle. Look at this. They color coordinated this, where depending on what section you were in, you were supposed to wear black or orange. Also, fantastic for marketing. Very, very smart of them to do that. Just really, really brilliant stuff. Very, very glad that they did that. But it looked so cool. And then I watched it back on TV, and I was like, God, that looks incredible. The Cincinnati Stadium is a terrible stadium. I truly do not like it. It after being at places like Ford Field, I'm like, my God, that's a stadium. This, maybe not. It's very cold. It's concrete. It ain't that comfortable, but damn it, it's home. And they do a lot of other cool stuff like this and the light shows and all the pyro that they got going on. They have made a lot of necessary adjustments. Here's to hoping we get a dome, even though the Bengals don't want that. I do, because I am a wimp in this weather. Joseph Boza says it comes across weird on TV. What do you mean comes across weird on TV? The striping the jungle? I thought it came across great. I was very happy with it. Very happy with it. So let's talk about how things went. Besides the Josh Allen stuff, you can't get duped by this man. Bengals opening drive was great. Bengals second drive was great. I love when they accept the ball or they take the ball. You can always pretty well game plan for it. If you're going to take the ball to start the game, you can always game plan for that, because almost everybody else is going to defer, try to get that 2-for-1 at the end of the half, get an early stop when nobody's warmed up, etc. But yeah. Joseph says the overall presentation, I wish they were in a dome. Domes are better. Listen, you ain't going to argue with me or get an argument out of me for that. Like, I know some people love football in the elements. I like football when it's comfortable. So the opening 2 drives are really good. And what I thought that this week's game showed us is the Bengals should be valuing the tight end position way more than they have in years. Look at what Tanner Hudson, Irv Smith, and Drew Sample did. Tanner Hudson is the guy that a lot of people have been looking at and saying, well, you know what? After the way that Irv Smith performed last week, where people were calling for his job, maybe he should be the guy. Drew Sample was drafted in a position where it seemed like he was supposed to be the guy. More of a blocking guy than anything. But then what we saw last night were the tight end positions combined, all 3 of them, 3-headed attack, 10 catches, on 13 targets and 2 touchdowns, including one for Irv Smith. I am so happy that he got that redemption. And one from Drew Sample, who was largely not figured into this a lot. And what this showed me is that a lot of Bengals fans were right. They probably should have tried to keep Hayden Hurst, even though it wouldn't have feasibly made financial sense, or traded for Hayden Hurst, or drafted a tight end, or anything like that. They should have put more stock into that tight end position. And listen, dare I say it, after seeing a game like this and seeing how it opened up the playbook and how much easier it was, touchdowns within the red zone or even within like 25, I'm like, damn, I really wish the tight end. I wish the tight end was more of a focus for the Cincinnati Bengals. They're losing Tyler Boyd next year, and if for some reason they can't reach a deal with T. Higgins, I'm sure they're going to tag him. But I'm like, man, I would really, really like to have a good tight end. But even then, you could draft high and get a tight end. I don't know where they're going to head in the draft. I would imagine it's, going to be offensive line, because the nature of offensive linemen is they get beat up, they get older. I think it was Alex Kappa had a couple of costly errors, but the tight end position played extremely well. I think Irv Smith, Drew Sample, and Tanner Hudson may have really shifted the momentum of this game, because if you are an NFL team, you're probably not preparing for a lot of throws to go the tight end's way. With the Cincinnati Bengals, you are focusing on Jamar Chase primarily. You are focusing on T. Higgins, number 2. Then number 3, you're probably focusing on Joe Mixon, because he's going to get 20 targets, touches a game. And then you're worried about Tyler Boyd, who I said before the season, I thought he could be a number 1 on a couple NFL teams. Maybe not now, but I think that he's still very good. I think he is a number 2 on almost any team. That's how good he is. But tight ends from an offensive standpoint, I mean, you probably look at that after Joe Burrow running the ball, looking across the field and then running the ball. So just incredible play out of them. T. Higgins, 8 receptions for 110 yards. Man, he was getting it done. After that slow start, you always wonder, like, oh, is this the pivotal turning point in a career? Well, how will it work out? Chase was relied on a lot less. He had like 3 catches for 9 yards until he broke off that one. So he had 8 targets and 4 catches, did Chase. But then there's T. There's T. Higgins stepping up. And there's Tyler Boyd stepping up. There's always somebody on this team that can step up. There's always a guy. At times, I think that guy should be Joe Mixon. So again, last year, very hard on Joe Mixon, and understandably so. He did not perform. He's got a better offensive line. I don't know if the numbers reflect his performance, because it was 14 carries, 2.6 yards a carry. One of those was in the end zone. A couple of those were, just knock some time off the clock. But he scored a touchdown. He only had a 12-yard run, but he does have to do better than 2.6 a carry. But he's also, catching 5 balls, 31 yards. I don't like how much the Bengals are still going behind the line of scrimmage. It's slowly starting to make its way back after they won, not doing that. But if they mix that in with the tight ends going over the middle, like running a mesh or running just like a little slant or something like that, where these big dudes can catch the ball and muscle their way in for a first down. And that's what Drew Sample does. That's what Tanner Hudson does. That's ideally, if Irv Smith can catch the ball, that's what he does. So again, no like huge bomb or anything like that. I think 32 yards was the longest pass. Like we don't see a lot of like 50-yard bombs out of Joe Burrow, but everybody with their hands did what they were supposed to do. But I would love to see more of a focus on the tight ends after what we saw. Joe Burrow making incredible decisions, but I wish that they would at least show run on some of these third downs, like 3rd and 2. I wish they would show run at least a little bit. At least put that in there. They have him throwing on 3rd and short very, very long. They have him going out of shotgun 3rd and long a lot. And sometimes it usually works. I don't want to say sometimes. It usually works. He completes a pass or he runs one right up the middle or something. But at some point, you got to trust Joe Mixon to do that. And he's a very deceptively big guy as well. But Joe Burrow he's been making incredible decisions. That's about it. 348 yards. My God. Let's talk about the defense. Lots to talk about here. Defense, very bipolar, as I say all year. And I tweeted this when the game started. The story of the Cincinnati Bengals defense this year has been giving up really long drives where a lot of passes are completed, a lot of first downs, a lot of stuff that should be stopped. And then they come up with miraculous plays in the red zone. I mean, that was the case last year, too. The Sam Hubbard run back, they pull off miraculous plays in the end zone or the red zone. Sometimes the end zone. Now, Cam Taylor-Britt absolutely baited Josh Allen and cut the route and got that interception at the start of the drive. That was great, and that helped put the Bengals in a position to win. Cam Taylor-Britt sort of owns Josh Allen right now. He dominates him. Nick Scott really made up for biting on that Josh Allen pump fake, which Josh Allen pointed at him and got penalized 15 yards for, which, hey, I'm happy about that, but whatever. There was a play where Dalton Kincaid, gets tackled, very light tackle by Nick Scott, goes ass over tea kettle, flips over, and Jermaine Pratt just sneaks in and punches the ball out. Ooh, that was a thing of beauty. And it didn't start in the red zone, but it went into the red zone. So listen, call me Nostradamus if you want. I wouldn't do that. Just a bunch of other people call me that. I would. That's a huge ego thing. I would never. But God Almighty, what a play! Nick Scott made the tackle. Jermaine Pratt punches the ball out, and Nick Scott covers it. That took minimum 3 points off the board for the Buffalo Bills that they very badly needed. It was an 18-24 game that probably should have been a 30-21 game. Or probably 30-20 because they're probably not going for 2 in the spot that they go for. Because the Bengals should have had 2 extra field goals. The Bills should have had at least 3 on that board. But think about how different this game would be if Pratt and Nick Scott didn't make that play. That was a difference maker at a very, very crucial point there. May have ended up saving the game considering it was a 6-point game by the end of things. BJ Hill was very good. A couple QB hits, sack as well. They went for that challenge towards the end of the game, and I was like, come on. They had the most perfect camera angle of that ball hitting the ground. And if a stadium DJ hears me, listen, first off, get rid of that horrible touchdown song the Bengals have. And I will scream this until my lungs give out. Get rid of Bang the Drum All Day. It sucks. It's terrible. Nobody likes it. Get rid of it. It's the Packers song anyway. Use Tarzan Boy by Baltimore. Use anything else. But whenever there's an incomplete pass, use the Lonely Island. Threw it on the ground. Come on. It's right there. It's right there. Bengals Lions Super Bowl looks more and more likely. Man, from your lips to God's ears. Buffalo Bills brought it to the Bengals, even though Cincy striked the jungle. Yeah, I mean, listen, there was no real point in which I felt like this was out of control for the Bengals. They were, I get nervous because the Bengals are my favorite thing, but I felt like the Bengals brought it the whole game. They were in control. Jeff says Pratt re-upping has been the most underrated signing of the offseason. Yeah. So we had a lot of question marks about the Cincinnati Bengals defense because of Von Bell and because of Jesse Bates leaving. Now, obviously, it would have been wonderful to keep Jesse Bates, right? Like, it would have been wonderful. But they looked at it and they said, let's keep Pratt. We got Hendrickson. We got Wilson. We got Reeder. We got Hill. We got Dax Hill. We got Cam Taylor-Britt. They got playmakers. They got people who get things done. However, here is my fear. My fear is that next week against CJ Stroud, who is walking around with his balls in a wheelbarrow right now, I fear they get sliced and diced next week because CJ Stroud, that man is looking insane. Insane. If the Bengals, forget 470 yards, if the Bengals give up 300 yards to CJ Stroud, they're probably not winning next week. That's my big fear. Excited for that game. How's CJ Stroud doing on the road? Because from what I understand, he seems to, I don't want to say the Texans seem to struggle on the road. They lost at Baltimore. They won at Jacksonville, lost at Atlanta, lost at Carolina. Lost at Carolina. Well, listen, you lose at Carolina, I believe the Bengals are going to beat you. I do. Losing at Baltimore, that happens. Losing in Indianapolis, that happens. But yeah, they got good wins over Pittsburgh and Jacksonville. But I do not expect to see a pick next week. Or maybe the Bengals will just happen to have his number. That would be great. Hit him with a welcome to the league rookie type of thing. If they can get to him, I think that would be great. I mean, him and I mean, if they can sack him 3 or 4 times, that would be really, really great. Because there was a period, and it's when the Texans were the most successful when he wasn't getting touched, he wasn't getting sacked. They were beating Jacksonville, they were beating Pittsburgh, and they were within reach of beating Atlanta. And when he only gets sacked like twice a game, it's usually pretty good for them. But if they have weeks like the first 2 weeks where he's getting sacked 5 or 6 times, CJ Stroud's not going to be able to win that game. Still got the Bengals winning. Also, Joe Burrow had a cut on his finger. It seems like he's all right. He said no big deal. Also, great to see Damar Hamlin out there before the game. He hasn't played this season. I don't believe he's taken the field at all. If I am not mistaken, but I mean, it's good that he was there and they have him doing that. He's probably going to be an inactive for the season. I think they've got him listed as 1 game. I don't know what he did. I don't remember him taking the field though. But yeah, I think that probably, even though it's a miraculous recovery, so to speak, but glad to see him back. Glad to see him back. Oh man. That was a common Bengals W, guys. What were your thoughts on them panning the camera to Hamlin? I thought it was opportunistic. I don't like it. I mean, do it a couple times, but like, I don't like when they do that, when they overdo it with anybody, Taylor Swift or somebody's parents, or if it's a coach, sure. Wouldn't be the shock if the Bills move Hamlin into an ambassador program sort of role. I'm sure they will. Guys, thank you all so much. It was a common Bengals W. Till next time, we're out.